Welcome to the Nerdly Adventures. My name is Elijah, and in my first episode, my quest is to display the 90s JLA lineup of characters by Grant Morrison. The Grant Morrison 90s run of the JLA from like 97 to 99 issues, roughly one to like Rock of Ages, so like 37 to 45, something along those lines. That lineup of the Justice League through McFarlane's DC Multiverse line. Now, this is a task that I'm sure is very possible, and I just would like to bring you all along for my journey. So let's get started by talking about specifically what the lineup consists of and what characters I am wanting for my display. So, what makes this lineup of the Justice League different from most other ones? Well, the Core 7 utilizes two different versions of characters that are in the original 7, this being the Wally West Flash instead of Barry Allen Flash, and Kyle Rayner Green Lantern instead of Hal Jordan. This is a change that has affected a lot of later issues. For instance, Wally has kind of become like the mainstream Flash for the most part, except for in recent continuity, he's more with the Titans. And specifically, this is the only time really when Kyle Rayner is the lead Lantern in the DC universe. This is the premier Lantern. He is the Green Lantern. Granted, there are other Green Lanterns, but in the term of Earth Green Lanterns, this is the main one. So, that is what really differentiates the Core 7. Other than that, you have your original Core 7 members of the JLA, that being Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, making up the Trinity, then your Flash and Green Lantern, and lastly, Aquaman and Martian Manhunter. Now, this is what is like the Core 7. This is the original 7. Now, they started out the JLA. However, there are some different members that were on the team throughout the time that really built up the roster. Now I have my little list here because off the top of my head, it's easier to remember with my list. And this is where the team really starts to get interesting, because most teams use fairly well-known characters such as Firestorm or Zatanna or the Red Tornado, some very well-known characters. Now, the 90s was a really weird time, and I feel like this roster really reflects that. The main ones that I came up with is Steel, that being John Henry Irons, not the JSA Steel. Plastic Man, very interesting one. Huntress, Zariel, who I don't really know too much about, if I'm being completely honest, and this is really the only time I've ever actually seen him in continuity, so I don't know what else he's in. That might be a good character to do a video on. And then lastly, Orion and Big Barda of the New Gods. So, those are the members of the team that I would ideally have in a 90s JLA lineup. And there's one more that I'm going to talk about later, because he's a little bit iffy. But let's get into the figures needed for this. McFarlane Toys has produced quite a few figures over the years. And the DC line that they have is the 7-inch figures, which I love. I think they're great for the most part. And for a while, they were very struggling in the comic book realm. They would only make some really weird, obscure Batmans, but they have since redeemed themselves. So the first figure that I have for this lineup is Steel. John Henry Iron Steel. McFarlane produced this Target. This was a Target exclusive earlier this year, I believe, or maybe late last year. I want to say late last year now that I think about it. He does come with his hammer, which is this bendy soft plastic, and I absolutely loathe and despise that, because it's just it's not a solid hammer. But the character, this is honestly one of my favorite figures that McFarlane has produced. So this is our Steel figure. Great. It's based off of Reign of the Supermen, not necessarily the 90s JLA. However, the Reign of the Supermen was right around the same time. It was the 90s. So I think this is a perfect first edition. This is the only one that I currently have open for the collection, but we will get into the rest of them now on the sealed ones that I have. So as I'm sure many of you know, McFarlane Toys recently released their JLA Build-A-Figure line, and that's what really inspired this building up the JLA. And this is probably going to be a multi-episode series for the sole reason of it's going to take a lot of time to track all these figures down. And some we kind of have to wait on, but we'll get into that. So, the Build-A-Fig series has Superman, Batman, Aquaman, and Green Lantern, and the Build-A-Fig is Plastic Man. So, as I'm sure you can tell by this lineup, there's a lot of stuff we can work with. First figure that I have is the Batman figure. I found this one at Target, or GameStop. I found him at Target and GameStop, but I bought him at GameStop. So, this is technically figure 2 in the line. I think that's actually reversed, but yeah. So 2. I'm not a big fan of the Batman design, but that is actually what he looks like. So I think this is a great figure, and I love the Plastic Man Build-A-Fig. I cannot wait to pull him out of the box. So I will unbox this with the rest of the wave. The other one that I have in hand with me is the Electric Blue Superman. Now this is where things get controversial. So there are really 3 different Supermen that I could go for in my 90s JLA lineup. There is the Electric Blue Superman, so the one that comes with the Build-A-Fig part. There is the Platinum version of this, which is the Red Superman. And then there was the Superman in Crypto, which has the Mullet Superman, which is, ironically enough, the card that they use. They don't use the Electric Blue. They use the issue. This is the issue 1 for both of these characters. So it's very interesting. But I chose this one because I feel like this just best represents the 90s. I know Mullets was a really big thing at the time, but I think the Electric Blue is different, and also I would have nowhere else to put this because I don't really have like a Superman shelf specifically. So I think this is perfect for the 90s JLA. Plus also when I think of the 90s Superman, I think of this because those are the comics that I started reading, was that 90s JLA. I found them at half-price books growing up, so I was like, oh cool, this is a weird version of Superman. The last one that I have with me sealed is this one kind of just slipped under the radar. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't realize he came out. But this is the gold label Wally West Flash, Walmart exclusive. It's technically based off the Dawn of DC, as you can see by like the back art and everything. But I love this as a JLA Wally because the only other like normal looking comic book Flash we have is the Barry Allen from last year that was part of the Flashpoint wave. And it's not Barry, it's Wally. This one really he has a really creepy face that I don't love, but he has the different symbol that's a more simplified version. He has the weird like shadows around his eyes. So I think this is a perfect 90s Wally that I'm going to use for my display because I just think that's the best way to do it. So those are all the characters that I currently have. Now let's get into the section of where the issue of this series is going to lie, and the ones that I'm waiting on. As for figures that I currently have in the mail, I have the Aquaman and the John Stewart Green Lantern for the Plastic Man Build-A-Figure wave. Those should be here by the end of the week. Now, with those, that will put us at 6 figures that I have completed. That would be Batman, Superman, The Flash, Aquaman, Plastic Man, and Steel. Now, you might be wondering, why did I not say Green Lantern? Well, the Green Lantern that McFarlane Toys chose was like the first appearance of John Stewart Green Lantern, which was in like the 70s or the 60s. I have no idea why they chose this figure. McFarlane Toys has been very confusing with me recently about the Green Lanterns that they produced. They seem to really like to make Kyle Rayner and John Stewart, and not a big fan of Hal Jordan. And an even less fan of Guy Gardner, who's the one that I really would like. But that's a totally separate video. So, I am not using that. Instead, I need to get a totally separate Kyle Rayner. So, let's get into the next phrase, which is the figures that I am going to be hunting for. There's 3 that are in production right now that I need, or not in production, but there's 3 that exist that I need to find. That being Kyle Rayner, Wonder Woman, and the Martian Manhunter. Kyle Rayner has had about 4 different iterations made. I own 2 of them. I own the Changing of the Guard Kyle and the Blackest Night Kyle. Now, I do not like either of these for the 90s, and the main reason for that is this one, nothing like it. This one is pretty much the exact design, except for he uses a really light green, and I don't like that. This is the Changing of the Guard, which I believe is like in the 2000s, when Kyle's suit changes to a different color. So, the Kyle Rayner that I would like to use instead is from the Kyle Rayner and Kilowog 2-pack. This also gives me an excuse to buy Kilowog, because I really want Kilowog, and I was like, man, I don't need another Kyle, but now I do, to put with my JLA specifically. That is one that is on Amazon right now for $70, and I am really hoping for a sale, because by the end of this, it's going to be pricey. Now, the real pricey is going to come in from Wonder Woman and the Martian Manhunter. So, McFarlane Toys has produced a grand total of 2 Martian Manhunters, one being the Rebirth and one being the Gold Label Classic. The Rebirth one is not too terribly expensive to my knowledge, however, it looks nothing like the one from the comics. The one that I need is unfortunately the expensive Gold Label. I've been hunting on eBay, and I cannot find one for cheaper than like $50. So that's going to be a bullet I'm just going to have to bite at some point. However, seeing as how he's not currently in production and this is like a 2-year-old figure, I'm kind of just waiting around and hoping I find a better deal on him. And I think I have a pretty good chance of that. Wonder Woman, on the other hand, is kind of it's a difficult situation. So Wonder Woman came out at the start of this year or near the end of last year. I always kind of mix up because obviously it's about middle of the year. And she was one of the new collector editions, which is like the $30 figures that come in a bigger box. They have more accessories, that kind of thing. And she was extremely hard to find. I never saw her in stores. If I did, I would have scooped her up. The issue with that is she also is about $50 to $60, and that's there's not really much reasoning room there. I've looked online, I've looked on different sellers, and eBay is going to have to be the deal on that one. So those two figures are ones that I am going to just have to buckle down later once I have a little bit more money and can hopefully afford them. But so those two, however, do exist, and I will get them in due time. You will see that in whatever part that they come out. So now let's talk about all of the characters that I mentioned that I would like, but I didn't mention if they had a figure or not. I'm going to apologize in advance for the length of this video, but I would like this to be the baseline for the rest of the series. So, the only characters that I mentioned by name that I have not spoken about a figure yet would be Huntress, Zariel, Orion, and Big Barda. I don't ever think Zariel is going to get a figure, and if he did, I would be very surprised. So I'm just going to mark him off as a loss. However, Huntress is rumored to be coming out later in this year. So I feel like that is a figure that I have a very good likelihood of obtaining because she will hopefully come out this year. So that is one that I think would make for a fine addition. And I honestly don't even want the league to be that big. So I think she would make for a really good addition to that. The other two being Orion and Big Barda. Now, these are ones that I haven't heard any sort of talking about them getting a release or anything about that in any sense. However, today, literally today, the day I'm recording this, McFarlane Toys just dropped that Darkseid figure is coming out for pre-order tomorrow. This means that the New Gods have a potential. I know there was a really big thing, and I didn't think they were ever going to produce the New Gods. I was like, nah, he's more focused on like the current stuff. But if he's going to produce Darkseid, Calabac got a figure last year, the year before, or something along those lines. So Calabac, Darkseid, it only makes sense that Orion and Big Barda. And I feel like Big Barda especially has the best chance. I could see her in a 2-pack with Mr. Miracle. I could see Orion and Big Barda in a 2-pack for JLA. I don't really know. But, so those are two figures that I feel like are coming. So other than the ones that I have mentioned that I have or am planning to get, the only other one that is a definite maybe is Huntress. Now let's talk about the one character that I have a moral gray area with adding, and that is Ray Palmer, the Atom. Let it be known, I am a Ray Palmer stan till the day I die. I love the Atom. I think he's a fantastic character. Now, he was in the JLA for a short period of time. I specifically remember his character being in several. I know he's on several of the covers, and I know he's in several of the issues. But my issue with the Ray is they are just now releasing or pre-ordering his figure, and I cannot wait. I haven't pre-ordered mine yet because I like to find mine in the stores, but I am so excited for him. However, he's just a little bit too bright for, I think, how my JLA is going to look. This could be wrong. So what my plan is going to be, and this is why I kind of have him as his own separate area, is one of the accessories with Ray is a smaller version of him. Not as small as I would personally like. He's still about yay tall, which I guess on a 7-inch figure is whatever. But what I plan on doing is I plan on using the normal figure of the Atom with my classic Justice League shelf, and then using the smaller version of Ray Palmer for my JLA shelf. That is what I would like to do, but I might include the Atom. That is still kind of a maybe. So if you think I should, let me know. I kind of have a moral gray area about it. So that is going to conclude this first part in my quest, and I hope to have, hopefully I will have a little update here soon when I get my package in with the Green Lantern and Aquaman for the rest of the Plastic Man figure, and then I will do, when I get those, I'll do an update on opening the whole line and that'll kind of be a line, like a wave review video, and then a separate video about how my JLA is looking right now, and kind of how I think all the figures mesh together, because there might be some changes. So thank you for watching, and hopefully you have enjoyed.